really important. Like in later, if we need like a reference, that's going to help.
Done.
Thank
No
you
worries
so
at all.
much.
All good. All good.
Thank you.
Awesome. Aaron, Jace, Joel, Danny, excellent. Aiden, Lana, David. Awesome. Thanks, Luke. Appreciate that. And hopefully Navini's okay. Alrighty, folks, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. So, on that note, as I've mentioned previously, in the space of the TAE, I believe that I have, as Spider-Man says, or Peter Parker says, I believe that I have a moral and ethical responsibility in regards to sharing what's possible. And in regards to training, the TAE mantle is always quite heavy on me. And I believe, whether it's workshop 1, 2, or 3, that I believe that I have a moral and ethical responsibility to demonstrate what's possible in regards to training and potentially demonstrate best practice in regards to training, because ultimately, whether you're conscious of it or unconscious of it, you are looking at a trainer and you're evaluating, are they walking their talk? Drop a yes in the chat if that makes sense to you. Are they walking their talk, right? And ultimately, if I want to teach you about being engaging or doing engaging training, I better be engaging myself, right? If I want to talk to you about how to make things memorable, I better be using strategies to make things memorable as much as possible, right? And as we've talked about previously, in order to be successful in life, basically, we just need to master the art of modeling other people. And as you guys know, I've written a couple of books. Pretty much the first book, a lot of the ideas I've taken from other people and made them my own. And then, as we all know, it's all about being as coachable as possible. What we mean by that is if you hear a good idea, absorb it, take it on, and deploy it as fast as possible. Then, once you're deploying it, you can start to wonder, why would he be doing that? Why would she be doing that? And the coachability factor will really determine how far you learn, how far you grow, and how far you can also inspire other people as well. So, not yet, but in a moment, we're going to head to a breakout room. And what I'd love you to simply share with your partner is this week, and potentially if you met me in workshop 1, there may have been some things that you've done or experienced, or I've done with you, or I've said to you, or the ways I've set certain things up, or the way I've delivered certain things, or certain things that have happened this week, that all I'd like you to do is share with your partner what's one thing that you experienced this week that you would like to model and make your own. Maybe it's the way that I do certain things, or the way that I say something, or anything at all. Now, I know this week has been online, but there's so many things that I've done this week that you can also take to the face-to-face space as well. So, not yet, but in a moment, you're going to simply share with your partner what's one thing you've experienced this week that you've really enjoyed, that you thought was quite effective, and that you want to go away and play with the idea and make it your own, so to speak, right? So head to your breakout rooms, and I'll bring you back in about 2 minutes' time. Simply share with your partner what's been one of your favorite techniques that you've seen or experienced this week. Go for it, team. I'll see you back very shortly. Awesome. Welcome back, team. Welcome back. Welcome back. I believe everybody is back. On that note, we're going to come over to make sure everyone's back. We're going to come over to Aiden first of all. Aiden, I'd love you to share with the crew here. What's one thing you share with your partner that was something that you thought you'd love to go out and play with yourself that you really enjoyed? Aiden, over to you. Go for it.
Thanks, Mark. So I'd just like to, what I brought up with Lana was our conversation yesterday around the job of a trainer versus the job of an assessor, being that the change your thoughts, change your behavior, and change lives, versus the assessor with confirm and managing the change, measure the change. Sorry, not manage. Yeah.
Nice. I love it. I love it. Really well said. Really nicely done. And we'll do acknowledgement at the end. And Danny's just logging out, logging back in, and that is all good. Aiden, love it. Really cool one. Love it. Joelle, we're going to come over to you next. Joelle, go for it. What did you share with your partner there?
Well, I was talking about engagement and how you have a real good ability to engage the learners. It reminds me of something you said when we were talking about the job of a trainer, and you said that the trainer needs to control and influence the environment. And I've been doing some training with high school students, and I'm finding it really difficult, but you model it really well. So I'm hoping to be able to glean from and learn from what you're doing, so I can hopefully take that into the classroom. So it's an online classroom, which makes it as hard as well. So, I'm learning a lot.
Really cool. Really cool. Love it. Nice. Luke, over to you. Go for it, Luke.
Yeah, mine's all about the engagement component. Probably less articulate is herding cats. I like how you herd the cats. And I'll definitely be using that to and fro a bit more when I deliver training at work. Ours isn't online. Fireys aren't good with computers anyway, but face-to-face, keeping it two-way engagement, ensures investment and buy-in from the learner.
Well said. I like the way you put that. Love it. Yes, I've never met so many firefighters in my life until I joined Spec Training. I absolutely love them, and they are an interesting entity to train. Really cool. David, over to you. Go for it, David. What'd you experience this week that you want to try and borrow and make your own? David.
Yeah, talking with Joelle, we found engaging and being repetitive, and giving good feedback and encouraging the students as you went. I found that a good takeaway.
Nice. I love it. I love it. Aiden, over to you. Let me just make sure. Okay, we've already gone. Aiden, excellent. Lana, over to you. Go for it. Sorry, the names are just changed with Danny leaving, so apologies for that little miss out there. Lana, over to you. Go for it, Lana.
I did start talking with Aiden about just making sure that there was enough practice and using examples of what looks good. But after further conversation, I think really at the end of the day, don't overthink it.
Okay.
Which is can be a real big thing for some people like myself, who's a really rabbit hole warrior.
Nice. I like it. I like it. I like it. Nice. Stripping it back to what's important, stripping it back to the one key thing, really emphasizing that one key thing, whatever that one key thing is, and really getting that clear in our own mind. And as we'll talk about today in the Streetwise tips, there's one thing that'll really help out with that. So love it, Lana. Awesome. And coming over to Jace, over to you, Jace, and just going to keep an eye out for Danny as well. Jace, over to you. Go for it, Jace.
I think it's like really interesting session. I learned a lot, especially how you engaging. That actually are really impressed with it. Like I feel like telling stories and connecting words and things like that, it's really a good way to engage and keep them active. Otherwise, they're going to lose the topic easily, which is really amazing.
Nice. I love it. I love it. Staying in that same group there, Navini, over to you. Go for it, Navini.
Yeah, I talked about being specific when you're asking your learner for something, just to save their time and your own time, not assuming that they know what you're talking about. And yeah, the peanut butter and the jam or the jelly video really stood out for me.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it. I love it. And I believe everybody has shared. Drop a yes in the chat if you have shared. If you haven't yet shared, drop an NY in the chat for not yet. Just want to make sure I've caught everybody there. Just got yeah, Aaron. I knew there was someone. Aaron, over to you. Go for it. Let's hear from Aaron. Go for it.
Yeah, Mark, I'm really loving how you're engaging us all. I'm sure you've probably come across online people while we're online trying to probably multitask or do a couple of things here. Like, you're really locking us back in to the training session by engaging us, asking us always to drop stuff in the chat. I can apply similar methods into presenting person to person as well. Just always engaging the audience and making sure they're maybe asking them questions, getting feedback from them, or answers from them always. So yeah, definitely that's a great key to a good presentation is making sure everybody's focused, locked in on the one task as well, and then the message is getting a lot clearer.
Well said. I love it. Really nice, really nice, really nice. And well said. And definitely something to think about going forward there. On that note, folks, everyone drop an AJ in the chat. I have a sense of incompleteness, though, because I do want to hear from Danny when she gets back. And hopefully we'll be able to make that happen there. But if I can give just two things to think about going forward. Well, there's a lot of things I can give, but first thing I'd love you to write down in your notepad is the two words, good job, good job. If you just write down the words, good job, that would be great. Once you've written down good job, just drop a D in the chat. That'd be great for me if you could. Okay. Right. So what I discovered very early on in the space of online delivery, more so than in face-to-face delivery, however, it applies to both, is when we are delivering online, we have to maximize clarity. Cool. I just pause to let Danny back in. Cool. Danny, can you drop a yes in the chat if you can hear me and see me? Danny, can you drop a yes in the chat if you can hear me and see me? I just know that she was having some mic issues there as well. And hopefully she'll be able to drop a yes shortly. Danny, how you going there? Can you hear me and see me? Drop a comment in the chat there. Yeah, beautiful. So, Danny, we don't want to leave you out. What I would love you to do, and we haven't gone too much further, drop in. So, Danny, if you could unmute yourself and share with the crew here, what's one thing you share with your partner in regards to something you want to steal, borrow, model, and make your own? Go for it, Danny. Over to you.
I actually really like the way you demonstrated to us how different strategies you can engage learners when you're delivering virtually. I think like our whole group, I think, talked about
Yeah, Danny, your mic's cutting out a little bit. Yeah, we may have. Oh, there we are. Yep.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah, because obviously it's a challenge. Delivering virtually is a challenge, and it's really hard. In a classroom, you can see when people are starting to lose focus. Sometimes their eyes close and they start snoring. But it's a bit more difficult to do that online, especially if there's sometimes in the training that we deliver, there's a camera off mandate, depending on where the person is that's doing the training. So if they're doing it in a watch house setting, they can't have their camera on, so they're all looking at me and I can't see anyone. So it can be difficult to do that. I actually really liked how you demonstrated that with us.
Nice. Beautiful. All right, cool. So it's an interesting point you bring up. So on that note, so Danny, what I was just leading to was saying that there's two core things that we really want to think about in delivery in relation to what you guys just brought up there. The first one is good job. And Danny, all I did is I got people to write down the words good job. Okay. So the first thing I want to just really share is that delivering online, one of the biggest things I realized very early on is that we need to maximize clarity and minimize confusion. Maximize clarity and minimize confusion. Drop a yes in the chat if that makes sense to you. So we need to maximize clarity, minimize confusion. Now, I know that sounds like no shit, duh. But the thing is, when we are delivering online, there's a number of things that I do to maximize clarity, minimize confusion. One of the simple things is I repeat myself quite often. Drop a yes in the chat if you've noticed I repeat myself quite often. All right. Now, I do that for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is maybe you don't hear me the first time. Maybe you don't. All right. And statistically and even real life experience, Joelle did it in her show. I know, Lana. It was awesome. I'm like, oh, professional, right? And the thing is, when we've also got tech issues, sometimes people don't hear it. And also human beings, when we're actually giving instructions, I'm going to give you an advanced tip right now. When you are giving instructions, people will generally go through 3 phases, right? So you'll say something, okay, everyone, I would like you to open your books and I would like you to turn to page 3. What has to happen is that the listener needs to go, oh, Mark is talking. I need to listen. Then they go second stage, oh, what did he say? And then the third stage, they go, oh, what was it again? I didn't hear it. I hope he says it again. Drop an MS in the chat if that makes sense. So what we want to do is actually speak to that and actually say things in not a repetitive way, but we need to be willing to say the same thing in multiple different ways, right? So I can give you an example of that, such as when we are delivering training, it's really important to be an engaging trainer. Being an engaging trainer allows us to open up people's minds, and the quality of our engagement will transform everything. Drop in the chat. Did you hear the word engagement 3 times? Drop in the chat. Did you hear it? Yes or no? Beautiful, right? So we learn to be able to speak with dexterity and be able to maximize clarity, minimize confusion. The other way that we want to do that is that we want to tell them what a good job looks like. All right. Now, whether it's face-to-face or online, I don't care. The same principle applies, right? Now, anxiety happens when people don't know what a good job looks like. Now, whether that's introvert, ADHD, whether you're autistic, whether you're a normal human, you get anxious when you don't know what a good job looks like. Drop an R in the chat if you can relate to that. Now, I discovered by watching disasters happen, by watching other trainers, when I was shadowing, like very early on in my career, I'd shadow and I watch people end up in a breakout room and the conversation would go like this. What are we meant to do? I don't know. Do you know? No, I don't know. What are we meant to do? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what we're meant to do. I don't know what a good job looks like. So I discovered very early on, the more I can paint out what a good job looks like, the less anxiety somebody actually has. Drop an A in the chat if you would agree with that, right? The more you can paint it out, the less anxiety actually happens, right? So simple things like me, before you guys go to a breakout room, I say, not yet, but in a moment, you're going to go to a breakout room. And what I would like you to do is you're going to do an activity. And when you do it, it's going to sound like this, blah, 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 blah. And then I model it for them. And then I say, if that's clear for you, drop a C. If you got a question, drop a Q. Now, that entire process is something I need to learn to do. And it's something that, what am I trying to do? Maximize clarity, minimize confusion. Drop a P for powerful if you can see the power of actually showing them what a good job looks like, right? And many times as a trainer, if you don't realize or embrace that concept, you throw people unconsciously and unintentionally into an activity. People go, oh, I can't handle it. And then they come out, they've had a negative experience, and then they're like, oh, I don't think I can do this thing. And then they fall into the resignation cycle, right? So minimize confusion is a really, really important thing. Maximizing clarity, how do we do that? We simply show them what a good job looks like. And when they're doing what a good job looks like, we affirm that they've actually done what a good job looks like, right? Drop a V for value if you got some value from that first point there. And I hate the term common sense, but when you deploy that, everything changes. It really does, right? Now, the next one that we want to think about is ultimately when we are delivering engaging training. Ultimately, engaging training is simply the art and science of checking in. The art and science of checking in. And for me, checking in, it could be a range of different things. It could be in the face-to-face space. It could be hands up. It could be write something down. It could be turn to the person next to you and say, or share, or it could be sit there and reflect, or it could be stand up, move around. But the engagement side of things is getting some response from your audience. And generally my rule is I want to have response every 3 to 5 minutes. Everyone drop a 3 to 5 in the chat for me if you could, please. And the more I present online, the more I actually am doing a lot more engagement. And engagement's a lot easier actually on online than it is face-to-face. It's actually easier online. Now that may mess with your head a little bit, but it's actually easier online. It actually is. And Danny brought up an interesting comment saying that she sometimes can't see the people, cameras off. Well, it's actually easier when cameras are off. Now that'll mess with your head a little bit, but it's even easier when I can't see you. It's even easier, all right? Now, and one of the reasons it's easier because I get less distracted by how Joelle is sitting, how Jace is feeling today, what's going on in her background, dogs and cats and all that. I'm not distracted, right? So it's actually easier. So checking in every 3 to 5 minutes. Joelle, I'll take a question just when I'm finished here. But before we go on any further, and love it, Danny. Love it. However, I'm just going to pause here for just a second because I don't want you to miss the how. 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 What did I, and I'm just going to take a sidebar comment. What did I just do with Joelle's question? What did I just do? What did I just do? Drop in the chat. What did I just do with Joelle's comment? Because amateurs will do the opposite of what I just did. Drop in the chat. What did I just do? What I just, yeah, acknowledged it. Good. What else? Yes, excellent. I tabled it because what I want to do is I want people to take away what I want them to take away. I want to finish what I'm about to say. Then I'm going to create a time for the question. Drop a yes in the chat if that makes sense. An amateur will go, oh, what's your question? And then what happens is we go off on a different track or a different tangent. But we want to lock in the learnings from what we've got right now. I know we're going a little bit advanced, but it's important you know that, right? So drop in the chat, out of the good job, maximize clarity, minimize confusion, and the checking in and getting the different ways that we can get people to check in with themselves and with other people and also taking action and also responding in the chat, and also cameras off is even easier. Drop in the chat, what are you taking away from point number 1, point number 2? What are you getting from this conversation so far? Could be anything at all. Drop in the chat, what's your key learning that you've got so far? Model it. Beautiful. Excellent. 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 Yeah, model it before you get them to do it. Beautiful. Cool. What else? Repetition. Beautiful. Tell them what a good job looks like. God forbid we actually do that. Repeating or saying it different ways. Excellent. Speak with dexterity. Beautiful. Good trainers have a structure for yeah, I know. Luke, what a crazy idea. Repetition and engagement. Excellent. Engage. Beautiful. Checking every 3 to 5 minutes. And in the online space, it's even more regularly for me. Even more regularly. Because, yeah. Anyway. Cool. Excellent. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over to Joelle, and Joelle's going to unmute herself. And Joelle, feel free to ask anything at all. And what would you love to know, Joelle? Go for it.
Okay, so if your learner has their camera off in an online learning environment, so how are you ensuring that they are there? Like I know that you get them to go on the chat, but sometimes you might miss out if, like, there are lots of people in the class and you're trying to keep track of who's responding in the chat. Do you have any tools there or any ideas or suggestions?
Yeah, cool. Great question. So I guess my first comment is, first of all, my general way of operating is cameras are on. So cameras are on no matter what. However, if we have a situation like Danny described, there's not much I can really do about that. And I'd have to flow with it. Having said that, what we want to set up is a protocol where if you are stepping away, you're dropping a message. And the thing is, for me, I am looking for responses. Another big part about it is, depending on numbers, and ideally cap your numbers at 12 to 15, ideally, you set up the premise that we don't move on until everybody's responded. Drop a yes in the chat if that makes sense, and maybe you've seen that this week. We don't move on until I've got a response from everyone. And when you set up that accountability, then people go, oh, wow, I matter. Oh, wow, I matter. Oh, wow, I matter. And the number one reason why people don't participate in online is because they don't actually feel that their existence matters. But when I actually say, oh, we're not moving on until Danny's in the room, and apologies, Danny, but I just bring it up because it's a thing that's been, that's relevant. We're not moving on until we get a contribution from Danny. Suddenly it's not I'm going to show up and just watch the show. It's a show up and you guys are the show. You guys are the show. And there is no show unless everybody participates. Drop a yes in the chat if you would agree with that, or you get the idea, right? Yes. Oh, thank you, Joelle. However, in order to achieve that, we have to cap our numbers between 15-ish. Anything after 15, it becomes very hard for me to monitor and manage. And if we get to numbers around 20, then I just need to be even more encouraging and proactive in the response in the chat. And that works, right? But I notice the biggest thing that makes all the difference is the accountability, right? The show doesn't happen unless Jace shows up. The show doesn't happen unless every single one of you are part of the show, right? So yeah, hopefully, does that kind of answer that question there? Does that kind of help out, Joelle?
Oh, that was so good. Yeah, really helpful. Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, folks. So on that note, thank you so much for what you've shared there. I know there was a kind of comment earlier today with the dance around like Mark thing. And for me, at the end of the day, I'm just willing to stand on the table and do whatever it takes to be able to get the key learnings that they need to get in any way, shape, or form, whatever that looks like for that learner. And yeah, beautiful, Aaron. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Love it. So on that note, not yet, but in a moment, let's no, I think you guys are ready for it. You guys are ready for it. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring up something. Now, this week, we've talked a lot about assessing, all right? And you guys may remember my paramedic story, Drop a yes in the chat if you remember my paramedic story and working at the paramedic college and saving it from disaster there. Yep, cool. So all I want to do now is quickly bring up an observation checklist, right? And this observation checklist was one that I came across, again, modeling, right? I found something, I'm like, that is a cool resource. So I came across this resource, and if you want a copy of this, let me know. I'll send an email through to you. Normally, observation checklists are, excuse the language, mostly crap. They're mostly very hard to use. They're mostly non-compliant because all they do is they copy and paste the criteria from the unit, which is not how you're meant to do it, right? So I found this observation checklist, and I'll just make sure that it's showing up on your screen there. Just drop a yes in the chat if you can see the customer request one. Okay, cool. So what we're going to do, I'm going to show it to you on my screen here, and just I'm going to ask you, what do you really like about it? What really stands out to you? All right. So here it's about prepare and present sandwiches. Name of assessor, assessor instructions. You'll be required to observe the candidate making 2 sandwiches. The assessor may not act as a customer. Once you've observed it, you place a cross. If you assess a step, mark, blah, blah. If there is duty of care, you must check all ingredients. The assessment is completed when the workstation is cleared at the cafe standards, right? Then we come down, candidate instructions. Okay, you have entered a simulated observation where you'll be required to talk to a customer, write down an order, clarify the order, answer any questions, prepare the ordered sandwich. Okay, cool. All right. I think I got some clarity. Oh my gosh, got some clarity. Yeah, I know, Danny, it's crazy, isn't it? So you're going to create a mozzarella, a salmon BLT. Okay, I'm getting me hungry. Then we come down, and then we got the criteria. All right. Did the candidate provide the customer with the menu and inform customer of any specials available? And we got yes, no, NA. Then we got a place for comments. All right. Then we come down, obtain the customer's order, relay order back to customer, asking if order is correct. And we've got some benchmark criteria in here where you can contextualize to the coffee shop. And you can say something like, assessor must hear the candidate say, let me repeat back your order, or whatever the phrasing is for that coffee shop. Coming down, check perishables, use safe handling practices to hygienically prepare sandwiches. And in there, again, you could say, assessor must see the candidate, use gloves and blah, blah, and blah, blah. Use toasting, add suitable garnishes as required. Visually evaluate dish and adjust presentation. And then we come down, the candidate's overall performance met the standard, yes or no. Now, technically, that should say satisfactory or not yet satisfactory. Then we got a place for signature, and then we got a name and signature for the candidate there and the date. What I would love you to do is drop in the chat what really stands out to you from this checklist. What do you really like about it? And what's something that's like, oh my gosh, that's pretty good. Drop in the chat. What do you really like about it? Clear and direct. Beautiful, Joelle. Excellent. What else, team? Clear instructions. Excellent. Very specific. Sequential. Excellent, Lana. Very cool. Very cool. Clear, concise instructions. Beautiful, David. Yeah, nice, Danny. Awesome. Hypothetically, no room for ambiguity. Cool. So Aiden, I'll address that question in just a moment. No, like the font. Okay, cool, Aaron. I like it. I like it. To be honest, the NA one, it's a little bit of an iffy thing. Hypothetically, just like the only exception that I could imagine would be, for example, if hypothetically, number 14 here. Add suitable garnishes. Now, a crazy idea. Now, I'm not going to defend the observation checklist. I'm not going to defend it because I didn't make it. I just found it was a good one. The only rationale I could think of for the NA would be maybe, I don't know, maybe if for number 14, the customer ordered the sandwich, but they didn't want any garnishes. Like that's just all I could think of as an exception to why there would be an NA. Does that kind of make sense? Or maybe like with the toasting, they didn't heat the sandwich. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. However, if anything would be an NA, you would expect a comment to go in the comments box saying, Customer didn't want it toasted. Does that kind of make sense? That's the best I can do. I don't actually know because I didn't make it. But anyway, cool. Joelle's got another question. And Joelle, over to you. Go for it. Would you love to know?
Yeah, it's a question. So where you have the assessor must hear the candidate say, blah, blah, blah. So are we allowed to give the little prompts like that to help them? Or is that like where's the balancing? Like, where it's too much information or not enough information? How does that work?
Yeah, good question. So if we zoom back out, so to answer your question directly, the candidate wouldn't, in my world, would not see this checklist. The candidate would only see the candidate instructions, this part here. Okay. However, ideally, let's come back to my rant from yesterday. If the student had done enough practice, then all of the things that we expect them to be able to do should be demonstrated. Does that kind of make sense, Joel? So theoretically, they should know what to do and how to do it in regards to my cafe's policies and procedures. For example, relaying order back to customer. And if my practice time has included those keywords, then I'd expect that to be replicated when I watch them do the thing. Does that kind of help out, Joelle? Does that kind of make sense?
Absolutely. That's really good. Thank you. I get that.
Yeah, awesome. Is it appropriate to reread the instructions to the candidate? Yeah, absolutely. I'd be fine with that. That would be okay because at the end of the day, however, it would be fine to reread it. It would be absolutely fine so that they know what is the ideal outcome, what is trying to be achieved, and the criteria they need to meet. How they meet the criteria, well, they should have locked that in within the practice time. Okay. Also, at the end of the practical activity, if you say, oh, you were not yet satisfactory, the open loop then becomes, well, why? Then you need to be able to say, well, when you did X, Y, Z, you didn't do blah, blah. And I need you to do it again. Oh, okay. So just to confirm, everything else was okay and I just need to fix blah, blah. Yep. Okay, cool. So you definitely want to have clarity on where they fell down and give that to them. But yeah, absolutely. It's fine for them to ask questions. That's totally okay. Great comment there, Luke. Because the last thing you want to have is them not sure what a good job looks like, if that makes sense. Hopefully that answered that question. Hopefully it did. On that note, folks, if you got some value from checking out the observation checklist, drop a V. If you want a copy of the checklist, let me know. Send me an email and I'll send it out to you. It was just one that I came across and I'm like, damn, that's actually good. It's actually good. It's like unusually good. So rare that we find them. Beautiful, Joelle. Excellent. I'll send it through. Cool. So on my clock there, we're going to take a bit of a break. And by my clock, it's 10:30. So we're going to come back at 10:40 there, folks. Just 10-minute break, and I'll see you back shortly. Thanks, team. Thanks, Joelle. Thanks, Navini. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Chase. Alrighty, so since today is a bit of a copy the how day, what do you think I might do next? What do you think is the next thing that I might do, considering we've just come back from a break? Drop in the chat. What do you think I might do, considering we've just come back from a break? Drop in the chat. What do you think we might do? See if you guys pick it up. Check in. Beautiful. Recap. Review. Beautiful. Revise. Excellent, 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 right? So what I'm going to say is if I was in the face-to-face experience, I would say, okay, we're now going to go around the entire room and I want you to share one thing that you've written down so far. Just yell it out. All right, next person, next person, next person, next person, next person. And face-to-face, that's how we would do it. In the online environment, same deal. Let's fire up the neural pathways. Drop in the chat one thing you've written down so far today, something that's been insightful or been quite helpful for you. Drop in the chat. What's one thing you've written down so far? And go for it. Let's copy the how. Drop in the chat. What's one thing you've written down so far today? Good job. Excellent. Thank you. Good job. Tell them what a good job looks like. Excellent. Tell it to them. Show it to them. Demonstrate it to them. Pause. Beautiful. Excellent. Maximize clarity, minimize confusion. We're not moving on until everyone present. Beautiful, Aaron. Love that. Repeat. Excellent. Excellent, excellent, excellent. And Danny, got your text there. Hopefully you can still hear me and see me and you're all good. And Danny, when we go into a breakout room, if it doesn't work out, just stay here and just think about the thing anyway. And that'll be okay. So on that note, not yet, but in a moment, I want to share with you something around validation. Everyone drop a V for validation in the chat for me if you could, please. Okay, cool. Now let's have another copy the how moment. Copy the how moment. Drop in the chat. Why do you think I just got you to drop a V in the chat? Why do you think I did it? Because it's not random. It's not just engagement. Why do you think I got you to drop a V in the chat? Why do you think I did it? I want you to start to think strategically. Why do you think I did it? Yeah, reinforcing the learning. Yeah, make sure everyone, yeah, those are two things. Another thing that we want to think about, we are valid, possibly, not exactly. What we want to think about is somebody's brain is like a house. Somebody's brain is like a house, right? So everyone drop a H for house in the chat for me if you could, please. We need to appreciate that. Oh yeah, I like it, Danny. We've just been in the living room and we've just been talking about XYZ topic. Now what we want to do is we want to go into a new room in the house and we want to be able to transition people into it, right? Drop a yes in the chat if that makes sense to you. So we need to get people to think in with a new hat and be able to have a different focus, right? Too many times people will leave people in the room and we've talked about a new thing, but people are like, oh, I thought we were talking about something else, right? So it's a really simple strategy you can use to get people to go, oh, okay, we're talking about a new topic now. So you want to get people to write the new topic down so that they have comfortably and smoothly left the last room. Drop an MS in the chat if that makes sense to you. So now we're going to talk about validation, right? And this week we've been talking about assessment. We've been talking about assessment, right? However, what I've found with assessment and validation is that a lot of it can go over our heads. And as I told you earlier this week, when I go onto a building site, I've got no experience at all with building houses. I've got no experience, right? So when I walk onto a construction site, everything looks good to me. It looks fine, right? Or, I walk in the house, I'll see a little bit of a problem here or there. But if you get a builder that's been doing it for 20 years and they rock up to a construction site, they're going to end up with a 75-page report of all the problems and all the faults on the construction site, right? So we only see to the level of our experience and awareness. We only see to the level of experience and awareness, right? And I've gone through a number of validations in my life, more than I can count. But one thing I realized was that very quickly, some of the terminology gets lost and it dies as a definition, right? And just to give you a quick example around that with authenticity, right? So for me, I was going through a validation one day and I said to my boss at the time, why are we actually ticking yes or no on authenticity? Like, what does this actually mean? And my boss at the time, her name was Shashi, she said, don't you get it? I'm like, no, I don't get it. That's why I'm asking the question. And she said, well, of course, it would be authentic if there was a student declaration on the assessment. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't really put two and two together. It didn't make sense. Oh, so that's how we check for authenticity. And I needed a content expert. Yes, absolutely. And I needed someone to peel back the layers and go, okay, how do they actually use that information and how do they apply it? So what I did was I went ahead and put together a master checklist. I went ahead and put together a master checklist, right? And what I did is I put together some criteria of everything I would look for if I was analyzing an assessment. I created the master assessment review checklist, right? And section 1 here talks about reviewing an overall assessment. Yes or no? Is the mapping complete or are there gaps, right? And a place for you to actually list the gaps. Does it mention reasonable adjustment in the instructions? Does it mention the availability of an RPL pathway? Does it mention all necessary resources? And what I did is I went through every single definition and I put it into practical terms and what we would actually look for if we were trying to find whether or not it meets that criteria of fairness or flexibility or whatever it means, right? Then we come down reviewing a written test. Do the instructions mention a time limit? Is there a place for an assessor to put their name? As we come through, reviewing the questions in the written test. Is there a word count? Are all questions worded appropriately for the AQF level? And I just put it together, all of these sections, and this has been reviewed by industry. They give me some pretty good feedback about it. But what I would love you to do is not yet, but in a moment, you're going to do a breakout room. And I would like you to simply in the last 3 minutes or so, I have sent you through an email. Can you drop a G in the chat if you got the email? It was titled Assessment Master Checklist. Beautiful. All right, so what you're going to do, you're going to head to a breakout room and simply share with your partner, what do you like about it? What do you love about it? What's really standing out to you on the checklist or in the checklist? And I know it's not perfect. I know there's some things that could be added or subtracted, or you can make it even more appropriate for your workplace. But this is a gift to you in regards to the fact that you've gone through this workshop. Now this is a consolidated checklist of everything that you would look for if you were ever reviewing an assessment or even possibly creating one as well, or reviewing the marking by another assessor. So head to your breakout room, simply have a chat as you read through it. What do you really like about it? What stands out to you? And I'll bring you back in about 2 minutes time. Just have a chat about it. No problem, Jess. All good. Just do what you can. No problem. Just review it where you can. Awesome. Welcome back, team. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. I'm going to come over to Navini. If you go ahead, unmute yourself, what'd you share with your partner? What'd you really like about it? What really stood out to you? But I know possibly your partner could have joined you. But anyway, I'm sure you read it yourself anyway. Navini, what really stood out to you from the checklist? Go for it.
Yeah, we had a bit of technical issues, so I sort of just had to read through the document by myself. I liked that it mentions the availability of an RPL pathway specifically. I feel like in other checklists, it's been kind of more broad and just talked about maybe evidence of the learner or their characteristics, as opposed to just outright asking for an RPL pathway.
Very cool. Love it. We're going to come over to Luke. Luke, as you unmute yourself there, thinking about what you share with your partner, what really stood out to you from the checklist? Go for it.
It was generic but concise to the point that you could overlay it. We talked about the way that, for example, I assess at work could be over a period of 3 weeks, and so the assessor doesn't get lost and just go off the vibe. It's a great reference to go back and go, oh yeah, we're looking at this. Have we done this? Do you know what I mean? And it can, because we're an RTO, it basically just brings us back on track, because the vibe's good, but I don't know how that goes in court.
Nice. I like it. I love it. And now, everybody, you could drop in the chat, what's one thing that really stood out to you from the checklist that you think was pretty cool, and that you think, yeah, I like that particular section, or I love how it includes. And drop in the chat what's something that really stood out to you from the checklist there, folks, knowing that you can make your own adjustments, make it relevant for you. But all I want to do is consolidate what definitions look like in practical terms. Versatile, very cool, David. Excellent. Clears up KFC issues, certainly does. Segmented, nice. Nice, nice, nice. No ambiguity, beautiful, Luke. Excellent. Specific and clear. Clear and comprehensive. Excellent. 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 In plain English, I don't have to think too hard. Excellent, Danny. I like it. I don't like thinking. I don't. Alrighty, I think that may be everyone there. There may still be some people dropping in their comments. And that is all good. That's all good. All right, cool. So we're now going to shift gears, different room in the house, and we're going to go to delivery side of things. Everyone drop a D for delivery in the chat for me if you could. Please not moving on until I get a D from everyone. Excellent. All right, awesome. So welcome to the start of your real journey. Now, whether you've been training and presenting for a while, at the end of the day, we've now gotten to the last day of your workshops with a TAE, right? And what we want to think about is that really your training and presenting journey really starts now. All right. So what I mean by that is you now have a deeper level of awareness around the vet sector and possibly around assessing and potentially about some tools and tactics that you can use for presenting, right? And what I want to share with you now is ultimately going forward, you will learn the most from watching other people and also what you try, what doesn't work, and then learning from your mistakes. Drop a yes in the chat if that makes sense. You will learn from watching other people, trying things, learning from your mistakes, and doing different, right? Now, having said that, if I was going to suggest to you some things of focus areas of things that you could think about going forward, I would suggest the next 15 things would be things that you could think about going forward, right? Now, along your journey, you can certainly buy my books. You can certainly come along to my workshop facilitation mastery course in either July or December. But even if you don't do those things, I want to share with you what I call the 15 steps to mastery or an advanced tips for presenting and training, and ultimately where to from here. Because at the end of the day, you can go forward doing what you've always done and get what you've always got, or you can plan out your growth going forward and going, okay, from now on, each week as I deliver training, I'm going to focus on this one thing. Then the next week, focus on the next thing, focus on the next thing, right? So as we go through this, I will be getting you to take notes. I will be getting you to respond in the chat. I will send you a copy of this. However, there'll be things that I add to this that I'm not going to necessarily have on the document. So you will be wanting to take notes, right? So on that note, as I said, these are things that you can think about going forward to take your presenting to the next level. No matter where you're at, we can always hit even more home runs. So the first one there is that I'm going to bring up is one that we don't often think about, but is critically important. And the first one there is be flexible behind the scenes. Be flexible behind the scenes. Once you've written that down, drop a 1 in the chat for me if you could, please. Be flexible behind the scenes, right? So very quickly you learn when you are presenting and training that there is what we call front of house and back of house. Front of house and back of house, right? And when you can understand that your audience see certain things and they also don't see other things, right? Now, an amateur will go, okay, this is my session plan and I am sticking to my plan no matter what. Then after time, you realize that that's not always the best idea. And occasionally you need to be a little bit flexible behind the scenes, but not let your audience know that you've changed your plans. Drop a yes in the chat if that makes sense to you. To give you some simple examples, this week, there was a moment where we had some delays with people joining. We had some people asking some questions. We had some different things going on, but it's your willingness to be flexible behind the scenes that makes the magic carry on, right? What you don't want to do is go, oh, every single time we do blah, blah, and blah, blah. No matter what's happening, we've got to stick to the plan. No. Professionals are able to be flexible behind the scenes, move and groove without the audience even knowing, And a great phrase for that is one of my favorites. I am so glad that happened. I'm so glad that happened. Drop in the chat the phrase, I'm so glad that happened. 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 I'm really glad that happened. I'm so glad that happened. Drop in the chat. For example, you turn up to the work site, the machinery is broken. Instead of you saying, oh, I'm sorry, folks, we can't do the training today. Instead, you say, oh, I'm so glad that happened, because today, actually, we're going to look at a simulated scenario of what do we actually do if we turn up to the accident and the machinery is broken. I'm so glad that happened. Drop a P for powerful if you can see the power of actually using what's in front of you to your advantage, right? Everything happens for whose advantage? The trainers, all right? So use anything and everything that happens for your advantage, for the trainer's advantage, as Luke says there, right? Beautiful. Now, that does require you to actually be able to move and groove, think on your feet, and actually know that it's okay, that what you do, as long as you don't apologize and make a big deal about it, they wouldn't know any different anyway, all right? So be flexible behind the scenes, all right? Cool. So that is number one. Now, next, number two here is training is like chess. Training is like chess. Everyone, drop the word chess in the chat for me if you could, please. Eventually, if you've been doing this long enough, it becomes like the game of chess, all right? What I mean by that is amateurs can only see one piece or one move ahead. When you've been doing this long enough, you can see into the board, you can see 3 to 5 steps ahead. All right. Everyone, drop 3 to 5 in the chat for me if you could, please. What I mean by this is at any one point, I always know what are the next 3 to 5 things that we are doing. And as a result of that, I can never be caught off guard, because I'm like, all right, yeah, cool. I know what we're about to do after this one. And then after that, I know what we're doing. And after that, I know what we're doing. However, I'm always thinking in chunks of 3 to 5 things at any one time. And ways that I do that, well, I write down sticky notes. I also have my slideshow printed off, so I always know the next slide that's coming. And the other thing that I do is, if I get lost and I need to check my notes, I get you guys to do something while I'm checking my notes. So when I need to do something, I get you to do something. When I need to check my notes, I get you to do something. Drop AHA in the chat if you've just had an aha moment. If you need to prepare something or get something done, you get them to do something. The idea is misdirection. Danny nailed it, right? So you never want them to see you checking your notes. You are never allowed to let them see your notes. When they are doing something, you are checking your notes, right? Drop a P for powerful if you're getting the power of that, right? I've done a video on it. It's on YouTube. But at the end of the day, you always will be wanting to think 3 to 5 steps and you ahead, and you never want to say, oh, what are we doing next? I don't know. Could someone tell me what are we doing next? Like that, I call that maintains credibility 100%. I call that a jolt, right? When you don't know what you're about to do next, it's like that's jolting for the audience and it's not comfortable at all. All right. So be 3 to 5 steps ahead of everything that you're doing, and always be in the mindset of, yep, I know what's coming next, right? So on that note, before we go any further, I'd love to catch some key learnings. Drop in the chat. What have you discovered? What have you realized? What have you written down already, folks? Drop in the chat. What have you written down already that's really stood out to you? Training is like chess. Beautiful, beautiful. Yes, I'm so glad that happened. Beautiful. All right, awesome. Nice. Now, let's just have think in chinks, think chunks. Beautiful. Now, let's just have a copy the how moment. Copy the how moment. Did anyone just see what I just did then? Did anyone see what I just did then? Just I'm kind of pointing it out because I just taught it to you. Yes, David picked it up. Nice, Danny. I like it. Ah, beautiful. All right, cool. David picked it up. All right, excellent. So maybe you didn't pick it up, but all right, excellent. So now we're going to look at number 3, which is all about language. Everyone drop an L for language in the chat. So, all right. Now this section here is going to be the area that you will find the most challenge, right? Because at the end of the day, your language is tied to your identity. Your language is tied to your identity. And what we mean by this is you will only be willing to say what you feel comfortable to say. And when you are first starting out as a trainer, you will hesitate a little bit, right? But as I've told you back in workshop 1, or if you buy my book, or even this week you've watched me, at the end of the day, the more confident you are in yourself, the more willing you'll be to use phrases such as, would you agree that? Would it be a problem if? Raise your hand if. Or what was that word, please? And your willingness to actually say these phrases is what will make you even more impactful as a trainer. However, you will hesitate because you'll be like, oh, can I say that? I don't know. But the greatest learning I ever got when I did my public speaking course was go after the audience. All right. And I'd love you to write that down. Everyone, please write down, go after the audience. Once you've written that down, drop a D in the chat. So go after the audience, right? So at my public speaking workshop back in 2009, I was doing a presentation. And I was asking the questions to the audience, but they were not responding. And the mentor at the time, he said, well, you're doing okay, but you need to go after the audience and insist that they respond. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So I showed up differently and I really had the perspective of, I'm not moving on until I get a response. And as a result of doing that, my identity shifted. And now we're not moving on until I get a response, right? So you've got to embrace that mentality. Your language will determine how much of a response you get and your willingness to play with the phrases there, right? So then coming down, we've got practice your cadence. Practice your cadence, right? Now, cadence is something that some of you have really excelled at this week. I'm going to have to say that the winner for the cadence prize is Alana. Everyone drop an AJL in the chat for awesome job, Alana, because her cadence was fucking incredible. So what we mean by cadence is essentially your rhythm when you talk. Everyone drop an R for rhythm in the chat. So rhythm when you talk is basically what words you emphasize and not necessarily the tone, but the speed and the up and down and the emphasis on keywords, right? And if you want to really play with this, then you become really dynamic in the training room. And even, so I'll just share with you something funny or fun. So I sometimes go to church groups or even, men's groups or whatever. And occasionally, it'll get to sharing time. Now, I'll tell you something that happens every single time I share. So Bill, what do you think? Mary, what do you think? Frank, what do you think? And then it gets to Mark Miles and suddenly everyone's eyes turn on me. Everyone's eyes turn on me. Drop in the chat, why do you think their eyes turn on me just before I'm about to share or as I'm sharing? Drop in the chat, why do you think everyone suddenly pays attention to me? Why do you think I do that? How do you think I create that? And I didn't even know I was doing it. Your dance moves, actually, no, Lana. Demanding their attention. I like it. I like it. So very similar to what Aaron's implying, draw attention, beautiful. So I actually hold the space and pause before I talk. And so I'll just draw everybody in. And then the next thing is I am going to really focus on my cadence. And I'm going to avoid waffling. I'm going to say very salient points. I'm like, yep, from this video, the biggest thing I discovered was that really the power in all that we do comes back to our internal external communication. And I realized going forward, if I really want to have a big impact on the world, I really need to start to think about, folks, sort of P for power, if you can hear the power of that cadence and that delivery, right? Most people just waffle and put so much cream and strawberries on their verbal delivery that it just loses its delicious taste, right? So for me, cadence is everything. However, it's not something that people are born with naturally. However, I do want to acknowledge, helps you when you know your topic. It absolutely does, Aaron. Helps, and at the same time, it is something that you want to just get comfortable to do. And the more you can do it, the more your audience feel your presence. So Aaron's comment is true. And what I don't want to do is set up as the fact that that has to exist for this to exist, because it doesn't. Because you can throw any, absolutely. And it can take a lot of practice, and it can be something that transforms your delivery a lot. And I'm going to, I think that's, is that CALD as in a culture, is that a different culture or a different ethnicity? Just clarify for me, Danny, in the chat for me, if you could, please. Because I'd love you to do that. I just want to, cultural, linguistic, diverse. Perfect. So it takes practice. And at the same time, drop a yes in the chat if you would agree that it's even more important if you come from a CALD background. It's even more important, right? Because if you want to get your message across, you need to actually think about how you are delivering your message. Because what you don't want to fall into is, oh, I've got an accent, everybody else needs to get used to my accent. Well, really, the quality of our communication is the response that we get. So we need to deliver it in a way that's heard. And we need to think, okay, cool. How can I make my words even clearer for my audience, right? And cadence, just one other technical tip I will give you is the rule of 3. If you really want to sound fantastic, get used to the rule of 3 and start using it. Everyone, drop the number 3 in the chat for me if you could, please, because the brain loves the rule of 3. So what you can do, it's getting a little technical, but what you can say is, today, you guys are doing really, really, really well at this activity. That I repeated the thing 3 times and I dropped my tonality on the last one there. Or I can say a cadence such as, you guys are finding this inspiring, empowering, and it's going to be really transformative. All right. So I've linked 3 adjectives or adverbs there together. And that's how we can use the rule of 3 when we are delivering that content. So cadence, it's the flow, it's the pausing, and it's drawing people in. On that note, folks, drop in the chat what's one thing you got from this conversation so far about cadence and language. What'd you get? What'd you get? What'd you get? Hold the space and pause. Beautiful. Go after the audience. Excellent. 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 Use the phrases. Beautiful. Yeah, non-verbal and verbal. Beautiful. Okay. Awesome. So the next one is about storytelling. Everyone drop an S for story in the chat for me if you could. Engaging language. Excellent. All right. So storytelling is an art form in itself. We've talked about that this week. And in my book, an entire chapter on advanced storytelling. But all I want you to think about going forward is start to think about how you can make the characters come alive even more so that your audience actually create that bonding hormone, the oxytocin. Then the other thing I want you to think about is story first, then content. Story first, then content. Most of the time, people will tell content, then a story. I want you to start to experiment to flip it so that you tell your story first, then the content. All right. So make the characters come alive, and then story first, then content. It's much more powerful than content, then story, content, then story. So the order really, really matters, right? So everyone, drop the word order in the chat for me if you could, please. That'd be great. All right. So drop a V for value if you're getting some value from these tips so far. I don't know if you are. If you are, great. If not, that's okay. Okay. So the next one we're going to look at is one that you guys probably have experienced quite often, and that is the ask, then tell, ask, then tell, ask, then tell, ask, then tell. And that is about the idea of avoiding pulling teeth, all right? Now, I don't know about you, but when I first started training, it was a lot of dentistry, all right? So you'd walk into the room and say, today we're going to talk about safety. And here is a slide. What do you think? 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 Right? And very quickly, I discovered that doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. So instead, I changed it to become, all right, folks, so we're going to talk about safety. Before I show you the slide, I would like you to sit there in pairs, come up with a list of 6 dangers that could happen on the railroad, and please write them down. Beautiful. All right, pair. Now let's hear from each pair. What did you guys come up with? Fantastic. Now, let me show you the slide. The top 6 dangers that you'll face in this workplace are this, and this. Fantastic. Let's move on to the next thing. The next thing about legislation. Before I show you the slide, let's do some research. Let's whip out our phones and do some research. Fantastic. What did you come up with? Good job. Well done. Let's take a look at the slide. Folks, can you see the power of shifting it from tell us to ask, then tell? Drop a P in the chat if you can see the power of doing that, or even a yes in the chat, right? This is the game changer. And this is where everything transformed, because they realize they are creating the show, not you just sliding them to death, right? So ask, then tell, ask, then tell, ask, then tell, ask, then tell. We do that to extend depending on time. Absolutely, Aaron. Absolutely. And in your world, works really well. Beautiful. All right, cool. So we're going to come down to our next one. And the next one is about movement. Everyone drop an M for movement in the chat for me if you could, please. Okay, so next one is about movement and momentum. And whenever I'm teaching younger audiences, I want more movement than ever before. And I want to get them to stand up. I want them to stand up, and I want them to stand up within the first 2 minutes. Everyone drop a 2 in the chat for me if you could, please. I want my audience standing up within the first 2 minutes. And I want them moving around in the session at least 5 times. All right. So within the first 2 minutes, we're going to stand up. We're going to do our icebreaker standing up. We're going to move around the room. You're going to talk to someone else. Then you talk to someone else. Then you talk to someone else. Then we sit down. We do some work. Then we stand up again. We go and work with someone else. We go and sit in a different seat. And throughout the entire session, people are realizing that movement creates momentum. Momentum leads to the big E word that everybody wants. What's the E word there? Folks, drop in the chat. We all want massive levels of engagement. Danny nailed it. Beautiful. So in 2 weeks' time, when I'm delivering my NLP presentation to 14 teenagers, what are we doing? We're doing a lot of movement. On that note, folks, not yet, but in a moment, by my clock, we're coming up to 11:20 then. So we're going to take a quick 5-minute break for you guys to refresh your brains, your bodies, and for the thoughts to percolate in your mind. And we are going to come back at 11:25. And when we come back, we're going to go through the next layer of these tips for you. Thanks, team. I'll see you back here at 11:25. Awesome, folks. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. And if you are here ready to go, drop P in the chat. Let me know you're all good. Excellent, excellent, excellent. And I'd love you to drop in the chat 2 things that you've written down so far in the Streetwise tips. Could be any 2 things at all. Drop in the chat 2 things you've written down so far. Be 3 to 5 steps ahead. Excellent, Aaron. Cadence. Ask, then tell. No death by PowerPoint. Give everyone on their feet. Excellent. Use engaging language. Yes, excellent. Story first, then content. And if you can tell lessons through the story, that's even more powerful. Flexibility, excellent. Movement, movement equals engagement. Excellent, excellent, excellent. All right, beautiful. All right, let's carry to our next one. Lana ask, then tell. Beautiful. All right, so our next one is number 6 there, folks. Everyone drop a 6 in the chat just so I know that you got that. And this one is the one that helps me never get bored when I deliver. All right. You probably can't count the number of times I've delivered workshop 1, 2, and 3 and the various courses here at Spec. I've been here about 5 years now coming up. And so I've kind of been around the block. However, the content never gets old for me, and it only never gets old because of number 6. Number 6 is I'm looking to do each activity different each time. And that's what keeps it spicy and colorful and interesting for me, because I'm always thinking, how can I do it different each time? All right. Everyone drop a D for differ in the chat for me if you could, please. For example, this morning, there was something that we did, which I shifted and changed that I never normally do, but it was appropriate for you guys and this group, right? And this week, I've moved and shifted some things around because we had Mike coming in and all of that great stuff, right? But the other part about it is, people's attention spans are only down to 3 minutes, as we know there. I'm just going to make that even bigger. So ultimately, at the end of the day, you must have variety. So for example, if we're going into breakout rooms, I'll try and change up the people as often as I can. I'll try and change the time limit. I'll try and change if you go in by yourself or with different people, or make different big sizes of the breakout rooms. I'm always looking to build in new levels of change and variety as much as I can, as often as I can. So that's number 6. Do each activity different each time. And then it never becomes predictable, and you're always on the front foot, and your audience are always wondering how it's going to happen next. All right. So once you've written down number 6, drop a 6 in the chat. Let me know that you're all good. All right, so number 7 is the F word. Number 7 is the F word, which is a very tricky one to balance. The F word is fun. The F word is fun. In this case, actually fun. All right. Now, what I mean by this, and I'll make the subtext a bit bigger for you here. It is really hard to get it right to balance fun and high performance. Drop an R in the chat if you can relate to that comment there, right? So when you're delivering training, and I'll just give you an example to illustrate. I was once teaching some firefighters, right? Now, nothing against firefighters, but I need you to understand the context. I had 12 firefighters on teams, and they all knew each other, and they were from the same area. And there was a lot of banter going on between the participants. Drop a B for banter in the chat if that makes sense. You can kind of imagine what it was like, right? So I was delivering this workshop. There's a lot of banter going on. And yeah, as Aidan said, uphill battle. However, what we need to appreciate is I had to manage the productivity and have fun at the same time. And if I went in and I smashed the fun, I would potentially break rapport. But if we had too much fun, we wouldn't get anything done. Drop a yes in the chat if that makes sense to you. So we need to be able to hold the frame and be able to manage the fun and the productivity. Now, this is not something you master straight away, but it's something that you develop an intuitive sense around over time. And there's different strategies and ways to do it. But I just feel to get better and better over time, this is a core area to really put some attention and focus around, right? Fun is critical, fun is important, but also world-class productive learning environment is really important there as well. All right. So you can have fun cracking jokes at yourself and make the environment fun, but don't tolerate anything. Set the performance standards to super high, and then you can dial it back a little bit. But for me, I don't really start cracking jokes or like building deep rapport or sharing stuff too much until around day 3 and beyond. All right. Because you want to set the tone. Once we get comfortable or used to the tone and the productivity level, then I can dial it back just a little bit. But I actually think about this. I don't just randomly show up and let anything happen. All right. Drop a yes in the chat if you'd agree with number 7. It's kind of important, and maybe you got something from number 7 there. And the simplest way, or the most powerful thing you can do, is affirm what you want throughout and keep the environment safe. All right. Affirm what you want and keep the environment safe. Affirm what you want and keep it safe. Right. And oddly, the best frame to have around this is if you want to control behavior, you need to learn to not react. Everyone drop an NR in the chat for not react. It's counterintuitive. And you need to learn to what we call hold the frame. Okay, hold the frame. So I don't know if I've told you guys this story yet or not, but hold the frame is basically the idea of the trainer sets the tone. Trainer sets the tone. And I'm sure you've already written that down, but trainer sets the tone. Just to tell you a quick story about it, I was in Melbourne probably around 2014. It was a story I'll never, ever forget. And this story is a little bit unusual. And just try and imagine yourself in the place there. But I was teaching 25 students at the Marriott Hotel. And I had, it was very plush experience, and we had 25 people in the venue there, and I was probably about 5 or 6 minutes into the intro, and then we had a venue staff member knock on the door, and then we had one of the students stand up and go and answer the door. And what he said at the door kind of incited everybody to laugh their heads off. And, you know, it turned it into a very comical experience, right? But somebody knocked on the door, the student opened it up, and the student said verbatim, and please don't be offended by what they said. This is literally what they said. So all I'm doing is saying what they said. They said, "Don't come in. We are cooking crystal meth." And then they closed the door. Drop an A for awkward if you think suddenly it got very awkward. And it was like, okay, that's kind of weird thing to say, right? However, he said it, and then the entire room burst into laughter. Now, weird, but true. Yep. So the thing is, in that moment, was it appropriate for me to laugh? Yes or no? Was it appropriate for me to laugh? Yes or no? Let's see if you guys get it. Yeah, no. Excellent. You guys got it, right? So in that moment, because of the surprise internally, I'm like, okay, that was kind of weird and kind of funny. But externally, I didn't laugh at all. And I just let them laugh it out. And then I sort of said to everyone, okay, cool. Are we good to go? I just said to everyone, cool. Are we good to go? And then everyone's like, yeah, cool. We're good. All right. So ultimately what we find is that the more you can hold the frame, the more productive and more influential you are going to be. So The art and science is knowing when to react and when to not react. Because what I did when I was first starting out as a trainer is I would overreact to things and I would lose my cool and I would retort. I would, someone would say something and then I would argue back, and it would turn into conflict in the room. And whenever I did that, I lost the frame, I lost the credibility, I lost rapport with the group. Drop a yes in the chat if this is making sense to you. So your ability to not react is the thing that's most powerful, right? Now, yes, I know, fully aware, there are some times where you will need to ask someone to leave. You will need to take control of situations, but you want to get to a point where you're holding the frame. And when someone's being interesting or someone's being a little bit, I don't know, destructive, my response in my head is going, okay, cool. Are you finished? Cool. In my head, I'm thinking, cool. Are you finished? Are you finished? Cool. Are you done? Are you done? Are you done? Now, that's what I'm thinking in my head. But then what I'll say to them is, yep, awesome. Thanks for sharing. And then I'm going to say, today we want to get through XYZ, XYZ, XYZ. Would it be okay if we jumped into that and we got through this, this, and this, and this so that we didn't have any homework tonight? And then everyone's like, yeah, absolutely. Then I'm going to bring them back on track and I'm not going to pay too much attention to any of the distractions or any extra pieces that are trying to be added in because I want to hold the productivity frame. Drop an MS in the chat if this is making sense to you there, folks. It's a little bit technical and you've got to be able to read the room, but the more you react, the less credibility you actually have, right? Now, I know every situation is a little bit different, but holding the frame is critically important. Before we move on, drop in the chat, what did you get from this conversation around having fun and creating a world-class productive learning environment? What did you get from it? Hold the space? Beautiful. Don't react. Excellent. And your ability to not react will be the thing that people go, oh, wow, this guy's different. This guy's, set the tone. Nice. Set the tune. You can be, I love that, Danny. Beautiful. Yeah, manage it while still having fun. Beautiful. Hold the space, hold the frame, hold the space. Beautiful. Yeah, are we good to go? Cool. Are we, I'm here to help you guys achieve what you need to achieve. Are we good to go? I still want to talk about politics. Yeah, awesome. Let's do that at lunch because right now we got stuff to do and I want to make sure that you guys get complete. Are we good to go? Let's rock and roll. All right. That's kind of my attitude. And that's kind of what I taught my daughter to have that attitude as well. Like when she was in high school, when bullying and all that kind of stuff. It's like, cool. Are you done? Are you finished with the silly comments? That's what I sort of told her to have in her mindset, right? So now coming down, number 8, read the personalities in the room. Works well for kids too. Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you, Lana. Cool. So read the personalities and use them to your advantage, right? Now, I don't know about you, but maybe you've started to pick up that Mark has a reason behind everything he does, right? So when I call on you, I am very strategic. This morning earlier, when you guys did the trainer mode activity, drop a yes in the chat if you think maybe, just maybe, there was a particular order I was following as I went through that. Drop a yes in the chat if you think maybe there was an order that I was following, right? Now, I don't say, well, I'm picking this person now because of blah, blah. In my head, intuitively, I am looking, where is someone at? Where would they feel ready to do it? How ready are they to do it? And I know exactly who I'm picking on next based on reading the room. All right. Now, an amateur will just go, oh, we'll pick Mary, Frank, and they'll just randomly pick people. A professional goes, let's read the room. Now, so when I am looking to read the room, I'm looking to find who are my students that is the strongest. Then I'm looking to find who are my weaker students. And what I mean by that is not necessarily like smarter or dumber or anything like that. What I mean by stronger is more so enthusiasm and energy wise and optimism. And then we got the weaker students, which are a little bit more reserved, right? So personalities, there's a lot of things to look at for personalities, but the biggest thing I want you to walk away with is start to look at who are your stronger students and who are your shyer students, and start to identify them very, very early on. Drop an E for early in the chat for me if you could, please. And the faster you identify them, the faster you'll get smoother with your people choice, right? Now, the other thing about this is that you have to avoid it becoming predictable. And this comes back to the magic show, What you can't do is pick the same person every time, because A, they get tired, but also people start to realize what you're actually doing. Drop an MS in the chat if that kind of makes sense. So this is the cool part about it. You've got to do it without anybody actually noticing, right? So occasionally you're actually going to pick a weaker person to go first. And this is, again, the game of playing chess. Drop a C in the chat if you think that might be pretty cool when you start to read the room like this, because it is a lot of fun, right? If you get it right. So then we've also, as part of personalities, I talk about this in workshop too, but when we're looking to run a workshop, we want to start to think about the vibe as well, the vibe, right? So in order to teach this part here, I'm going to tell you a quick story. So I was at a seminar in Brisbane about probably 2015, and it was a landmark forum. You guys wouldn't know that, but it was a landmark forum advanced course, and there were about 250 people in this room. There was a leader at the front of the room, and he was doing the close off of the workshop. And at the very end, he said to the crew, okay, cool. Is there anyone that would like to share some final words? And there was this female that was on the far right of the room. And it's something I'll never, ever, 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 ever forget. We had just gone through a massive breakthrough. We just had some massive realizations, life transformed, everything. This one person, at the very end, at the last 5 minutes, got up and said, well, I don't believe anything you've said over the last 3 days. It's been an absolute waste of my time. This has been the worst seminar that I've ever been to, and I want my money back. Folks, drop in the chat, how do you think the audience felt where she was saying that, or after she said it? Drop in the chat, how do you think we're all feeling? Anyway, yeah, awkward, groan, oh my gosh, yeah, shocked, absolutely. Those were some words that were coming to mind. Yep, absolutely, right? So what we need to appreciate, I know, surprised, everyone else is feeling great, was that the trainer sets the tone. The trainer is also responsible for the vibe in the room. And I'd love you to drop V for vibe in the room for me if you could. Please, that'd be great. Now, we need to appreciate that you've got the possibility to set the vibe. All you need to do is start to think about who are you going to call on and in what particular order. So if I'm going to do my group debrief, it's going to sound like, okay, cool. All right, well, probably the first person, I want a positive person. I want an optimistic person to share what they discovered, what they realized, right? Then maybe I've got 10 people in the room. Then the next person I want to go, oh, Peter, he's been really positive over the last couple of days. I'm going to come over to Peter. Now, Mary, nothing against Mary, but Mary's been a little bit glum, a little bit pessimistic over the last couple of days. I'm going to come to Mary next. Now, next person, I'm going to come to Frank. Next, I'm going to come to Bill. Bill's been positive. And the last person I finish on for my group debrief, do I want a positive or a negative person? Folks, drop in the chat. Do I want positive or negative? Drop in the chat. Positive, beautiful. All right. And it's on the screen there, so you would have got it. But, drop a P for powerful if you can see the power of this conversation here, because so many trainers get this wrong. Does that mean I'm negative? Not at all, Barrett. Not at all. And this is, again, that comes back to the predictability side of things, right? And at the end of the day, there's certain things that you're going to position people at different ways. And also, you can, not sure, there's definitely been times, Aaron, where I put you at the very end there as anyway, but your comment is funny. So at the end of the day, we want to have people, depending on what we're debriefing, when we're debriefing, to always be end on the what, folks? What do we want to end on? We want to end on a positive vibe. Absolutely, right? And we also want people sharing what we want them to share. And it's really, really cool when you start to get strategic around this, because you also can start to then think about the types of learners that are people in your room, where you got the pragmatists, active reflectors, and theorists, the 4 types of behaviors that you're going to have. We don't really have that much time to go into the 4 personality types, but they play into it as well. And that's really cool. So on that note, drop in the chat, what'd you get for this conversation around reading the personalities in the room? Drop in the chat, what'd you get from it? End on a positive. Beautiful. Love it. If you only get that, that is a huge one. Finish on a high. Cool. Use to your advantage. Absolutely, Aaron. End on a positive. Avoid being predictable. Absolutely, Joel. Yeah. Trainer sets the time. Facilitator sets the vibe. Beautiful. Yep. Excellent. 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 I know. Are you starting to see, and it's an open frame, drop in the chat, are you starting to see how the experience, you can actually create the experience for the learners? It's not just show up and experience the random. Drop in the chat, are you starting to get that? Are you starting to see that you read the room, you see the room, you craft the experience? You are breaking the 4th wall for me here. I love it. Cool. I'll need to go and Google what 4th wall is, but I think that's a good thing. Beautiful. So I'm going to assume it's a good thing. So now what we're going to do is take a look at number 9. Now, number 9 for me is something that I'll actually, it's not a bad thing. Beautiful. It's actually one that I'm going to come back to. All right. But because it relates to the morning routine, which I'll talk about later. So number 10 is about having a healthy perspective, right? So what I mean by that is doing strategic self-reflection so that going forward, you are progressing well as a trainer, but you're not getting full of yourself. Now, the way I answer this question, like I've been doing this for 13 years now. And if someone says to me, Mark, are you a good trainer? My response is actually going to be, yeah, I think I'm okay. That's going to be my response, because if I ever say that I'm really good or I'm a fantastic trainer, drop in the chat, what happens if I think that I'm fantastic and I'm a great trainer? Drop in the chat, what happens to my ego, or what also happens to me? What happens if I think I'm really good? Drop in the chat. Inflated, yeah, lose them instantly, cool. What else? There's a C word that comes to mind. Yep, cool. There's actually another word that comes to mind. Yeah, Naveen, what everyone said there is, yeah, it's actually the word complacent. I don't know how to spell it, but anyway, it's complacent. Drop a yes in the chat if that makes sense to you. As soon as I think I'm really good, I know there's going to be something I forget to do, or I'm going to be less focused, or I'm going to say something that's not appropriate, or I'm going to approach something in an inappropriate way, right? So I'm okay as a trainer. I think I'm kind of good, but I know I could always be better, all right? And so I'm always looking to ask myself, what am I really happy about with what I've done today? What's one thing I would do differently if I ever did today again? All right. I really want to strategically self-reflect, right? And those are the 2 questions I'm always looking to ask myself. What am I really happy about? And what would I do differently? All right. Self-reflection is key. Okay. So every night I'm asking myself, what am I really happy about with what I did in today's session? And I could tell you that about certain sections this week. And I can literally tell you that, right? What's one thing I would do differently? Cool. All right. Always thinking about that. Now, coming down, stay humble. You're not the best, but you're working towards it. Unfortunately, there's a lot of trainers that don't get that, and they think the show is all about them. Self-awareness, be willing to say things a different way. Sorry, let me say that a different way. Or let me pop that on the whiteboard. Or let me pop that in the chat. Or let me send you through a document, all right? Stay curious. I don't know the full story of what's going on for the learner. Never take training role for granted, and never take yourself too seriously. All right. So with number 10 here, which is all about healthy mindset, drop in the chat. What'd you get from this conversation around a healthy perspective? What'd you get from it? Yeah, don't become complacent. Beautiful. Yeah, avoid being complacent. Beautiful. Humble. Excellent. And my definition of humble is just, I think more about other people than myself. Always, yeah, Aaron, I will judge. Always room for, you know that I don't like that I word, but I'm sure that was just an accident that you accidentally typed that. But I know that you were really actually saying another E word, which was a word that's going to come to mind very shortly. So the next one that we want to look at there is rehearsal. Everyone drop an R for rehearsal in the chat for me if you could, please. Now, this is just the idea, and most of you will never do this, but if you are ever presenting and not running workshops, but if you're ever presenting, I do encourage people to rehearse. Rehearse your self intro. Rehearse the first line of your session. Rehearse, because if any of you watched the video on me presenting at the conference, you would know for that conference, I practiced my presentation about 64 times, strangely enough. And for me, when I got up on that stage, I was just delivering what I had already done 63 other times, right? So you can practice things like your outro, your stories, and you never want to make your live performance your practice or the first time you do it. Okay, so tomorrow I'm going to be in my office, and for about 3 or 4 hours, I'm just going to be rehearsing my NLP presentation coming up in 2 weeks' time. Why? Because it's important I get it right. And Oprah Winfrey, Steve Jobs, all of those professionals, they generally rehearse their presentations approximately 100 times. Okay, you think it's organic, you think it's the first time they've done it, but they've actually rehearsed quite a bit there. All right. So now we're going to do number 12 here, which is about thinking in chunks. All pros think in chunks and see simplification as a gift. All right. Everyone drop C for chunks in the chat for me if you could, please. That would be great. Okay. So if you come along to the advanced workshop, we really dial back your overthinking tendency, and we help you think in chunks a lot easier, a lot quicker, and a lot sooner. And I don't know, drop in the chat. Have you noticed that whenever I share content, I often will go, all right, RIG, R-I-G, VAX, V-A-C-S, very fast red Ferrari. We've got the 5 pillars of effective feedback. All of these things are just chunks that are put together and that are quick and easy for me to remember, and also the audience to remember as well. And your job as a trainer is to simplify things, not overcomplicate them. All right. Thinking in chunks is your greatest gift to you and your audience. All right. So on that, next couple, quite self-standing or self-contained. Next one is the word imagine. Imagine. Everyone, can you drop the word imagine onto your notepad, then into the chat, and we're going to play with the word imagine. Okay. Now, this is the idea that if your learners can't see themselves doing it, they're not going to make the change. They're not going to make the change. All right. So the more regularly we can say, I'd like you to imagine going out and using the XYZ tool, tactic, or technique, and how good that'll feel, then the more probability they're actually going to go away and actually do what you say, all right? So the word is imagine. Okay. Now, the next one of my favorites is, you guys have probably experienced this in the last 30 seconds. The next one here is grab a pen and write this down. 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 And you want to use this expression pretty much every 3 to 5 minutes. Okay. All right. So up till now, we've had a look at 1 to 14 there, knowing that all of them are important, but drop in the chat. What are 2 of the 15 that have really stood out to you so far? Up to 1 to 14, what's 2 of them that have really stood out to you so far? Drop in the chat. It's like, I love number 1, that and that one. They've been great. Drop in the chat. Which ones have really stood out to you so far? Go for it, team. What you got? Read the personalities. Love it, Luke. Language, excellent. Simplification is a gift. Rehearse. Fun and language. Beautiful, Joel. Excellent. Flexibility. Beautiful. Movement, momentum. Excellent. All right, cool. So coming down, next one is something that we rarely do, but is so powerful. Visualize success. All right. So this is also part of my daily routine. Before I deliver, I will always keep it on track. Beautiful, Aiden. I will always close my eyes, visualize, and I'll visualize people responding in the chat. I'll visualize people running to the back of the room and buying my book. I will visualize people asking me great quality questions. I will visualize it happening the way I want it to happen. Because in life, crazily enough, we often get what we, drop in the chat, finish the rest of my sentence. We get in life what we, drop in the chat, we get in life what we manifest. Beautiful. Kind of true. Whoa, I like that, Aiden. I like how you put that. And I like Joel. I would actually postulate that we often get what we expect. And if we expect it to crash and burn, it will often crash and burn. But when we close our eyes and visualize and expect greatness, then great things happen. Drop a yes in the chat if you can see how that may work out in your life there, right? If you wake up in the morning, you expect a shit day, well, that could be what you experience, right? And that then leads to the next ones there, which is the morning rituals, right? So there are a couple of things that I do in the morning before I present. So I got vocal warm-ups that I do every single day. And there's a certain warm-up track that I listen to do my vocal warm-ups. You'll probably listen to that, go, yeah, whatever. And until one day you lose your voice and go, oh, Mark mentioned vocal warm-up. I do them every single day. And the one day I don't do it, I lose my voice very quickly. I can't teach for 2 days and not lose my voice. But now, every day, I do vocal warm-ups and I can talk for 3 weeks straight. I'm good. Breathing, there's the breathing app that I use to calm down my nerves and my anxiety. Then the last one is intention. All right, so I set my intention for each day, and that was number 9 up here. So number 9, you want to set your intention. So before I deliver any session, I'm going to grab a sticky note and write down what my intention is for every session. And, it could be something like be even more grounded, breathe, create more safety, create more psychological safety, deepen the rapport, make everybody even more comfortable with each other, build even more retention into what we're doing, set up even more activities. Could be anything at all, but number 9 is about setting your intention. And I do that before every presentation and all of that good stuff there. Naveen, if you could hold for 5 seconds, that would be great. If you can't, that's okay, but we're going to go to lunch now anyway. But on that note, folks, if you got some value from these tips, drop a comment in the chat. It doesn't have to be a V for value. It could be anything at all. Drop a comment in the chat and let me know. Awesome. Joelle said so good. Very cool. Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. Insightful. Very cool. Excellent. Really happy you got something from that. My pleasure, Danny. My absolute pleasure. My pleasure. My pleasure, Luke. Awesome. So, thank you so much for those comments coming through. Great steps. Excellent. Excellent. Lots of takeaway. Beautiful, Jace. Very interesting, insightful. Awesome, David. Really cool. I will send you a copy of this, so you will have a copy. But yeah, I like to teach it dynamically. So on that note, we are going to take lunch, and I will see you back here at 12:40. When we come back, we're going to have those one-on-one interviews. What was the F word instead of improve? Enhancement. Enhancement. So yeah. Anyway, I'll see you back here at 12:40. When we come back, we'll be having those one-on-one interviews. Yes, beautiful. Thank you. See you back soon. Yeah, go for it, Danny. What would you love to know? I'll just let everyone head off to lunch. And yeah, go for it. What would you love to know, Danny? Go for it.
Hold on one sec. I can hear myself in 2 cameras. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
I was just going to explain the fourth wall to you.
Oh, perfect. Go for it.
So it's when in a TV or a movie show, the actors are doing their acting and then they'll look at camera and you remember that you're watching a show and it's actors. Like that, Seinfeld does it really well. In some of those like Flying High movies, like that kind of stuff. That's breaking the fourth wall. So you're letting everyone in on the gag, which is what this feels like. You've just given us a document to show how you do what you do and what you've been doing to us for the last 5 days.
Pretty cool. Pretty
cool. Yeah.
I love it. I'm gonna remember that. So thank you. That's awesome.
No worries. Oh, good. Have good lunch. Bye.
Yeah, you too.